I've got one flame to burn, one race that I can say I ran.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the 21047.com podcast. My name is Keith Cartwright. I'm the host of this show, and I'm glad to have you along listening in today. Wherever it is that you're listening, whenever it is that you're listening in, I am just glad to have you a part of this show. Today's episode is sponsored by my dear friend Nicole Williams and her family. They have been longtime sponsors of this show and the 21047.com mission. In fact, Nicole and her family have signed on to join me in Houston when I go down there to run the Houston Marathon in January. That all started as part of a 21047.com initiative I took on at the Hokie Half about a month ago, I guess. I decided I was going to run that race to raise some money for the hurricane relief efforts in Texas, and specifically in partnership with the St. Andrew's Church in Pearland, Texas. And so I had a lot of you and a lot of friends and family who donated generously, financially, to the St. Andrew's Church, that they can use those funds for hurricane relief efforts down there. And then that led to the sort of out of the blue idea that I would be going down to Houston in January to run the full marathon down there and hopefully get to partner with the St. Andrew's Church down there and some cool things. Hopefully a project, partner with the school down there that they support. A lot of good things in the work. But out of the blue again, I got an email from Nicole saying that her and Jason and her family really wanted to be a part of this trip to Houston. And of course, I was welcoming her to be a part of that. And so I'm glad that not only do they support this show financially, but they're going to be behind it with their running support and their work support down there in Houston in January. They are a wonderful family. I'm grateful to have them support me in my efforts here, and really glad to have them coming along for the run, the marathon run there in Houston in January. So thank you, Nicole. Anybody who is interested in becoming a Patreon sponsor, who, that funds, the money goes to create these shows, to give me the time to do that, but also to dream about doing different things like the hurricane relief. It just wouldn't be possible without the folks who are sponsoring me through Patreon. I realize not everybody can do that. I absolutely understand that and appreciate it. But for those who can and want to get behind some of the things that we're doing together, you can go to my website, 21047.com, TWOTIM 47.com. Click on the Support Me tab at the top, and then it'll give you some different ways you can get involved with helping me and helping 21047.com, including the Patreon platform where friends, family, fans can support with creatives like me in a financial partnership. So thank you. Today's episode is it's just all of these connections that just keep coming together that allow me to interview some wonderful, dynamic people. So earlier this year, as part of my partnership, my association, my passion for the Meg's Miles supporters group, I got to join Meg's mom, Meg Menzies' mom, Pam, and Tracy Outlaw. We went to Chicago for a Facebook community summit, and it just brought together Facebook groups from around the country that were doing big things in the communities that they work with to touch communities outside of those online communities. And so Meg's Miles got to go to Chicago to be a part of that first Facebook community summit. And so while I was there, I got to meet an awful lot of people, just some people doing some very cool things through Facebook groups. One of those people I got to meet was Jodi Stoner. Jodi is part of the I Run For running group, and basically this group partners folks who are runners with people that they can run for. It's a fascinating story that you're going to hear more about when I share my interview with Jodi here in just a couple of minutes. But Jodi and I got to meet down there. I reached out to her recently and said, hey, would you mind coming on this show? I'd love to interview you. She's just doing a lot of great stuff with her running, and she was quick to say, sure, let's do this thing. So we did it. I also had an interest as I stumbled upon her story. I'm headed to the New York City Marathon here the first weekend in November. Not to run it. Nope, I'm not running it. I'm going up to cheer for my buddy Tracy Outlaw. Tracy's running it. It'll be Tracy's first marathon that I'm aware of in a long time. And if you listen to my podcast with Tracy, I don't know, a couple months ago, you know, I'm kind of joking, but not when I say it might be the first time he's run, period, in a long time. So I'm hoping he's ready. But in searching for some stories around the New York City Marathon, I went to their webpage and I saw this story of Jodi Stoner on the very front page of their website. She ran with her little buddy, River. They are a 3-year partnership, again, that you'll hear more about here in just a minute. But so I reached out in hopes that I could interview her as part of my New York City lead-in to get me fired up about going up there and watching that race, being involved in that race. I found out after I talked to her a little bit that was a story from last year and not one leading up to this year. So I said, hey, let's do this thing anyway. Let's go ahead and have an interview. I think it will still get a lot of people interested in the New York City Marathon and a couple of the causes that Jodi is really involved in. So before I go on too much, I just want to let you hear from her. She's a beautiful soul. I think you are going to be really challenged by some of the things that she does and the way she does them. So here is my conversation with Jodi Stoner. Well, I want to welcome Jodi Stoner to the 21047.com podcast. So welcome, Jodi. Thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, so you and I, we met briefly at the Facebook Community Summit. I forget, that was earlier in the year. I can't even remember what month it was now, but
right.
There were a lot of people
Right, I think
there.
It was March.
That's what I was thinking too, but it was nice to briefly meet you there. And then after I did, you know, it's funny, we were at the Facebook Summit, so through Facebook, I got to get to know you a little bit and dig into just some of the things you do in your life and through running. So let's start there, because most of the time I'm talking to runners on this show. Tell us how you got your start running.
Well, I got my start running. It was the beginning of August in 2004. And, you know, I'm in my mid to late 30s. My friend Monica called me. She just moved to Jacksonville, and she said, hey, I've got to tell you this. I want to run a half marathon. And this year, Thanksgiving falls on her birthday. She wanted to run the Outback Half Marathon. And I was like, good for you. And she said, no, I want you to run with me. And I didn't even at the time know how far that was. I was not a runner. I had no interest. I basically told her I wasn't interested, but she's just the kind of person you don't say no to. And she's sweet and wonderful. And in a matter of about 15 minutes, we had a plan, and we were going to start training right then. It was August. We had September, October, November. I'm going to drive to Jacksonville the day before Thanksgiving, her 25th birthday. We're going to run. And we did. And that journey in itself was amazing. Just messaging each other, how far did you go? And we were just going to go and have a good time. And we did. And it was fantastic. It was a great first half marathon. What happened after that was, it's just this feeling when you cross the finish line, this feeling, this empowering feeling that you can do anything. And we had a plan, and we worked the plan. We exited the plan. We trusted our training, and we did this, and we just were both on cloud 9 about it. Soon after that, Monica was diagnosed with breast cancer, and Monica never ran again. She fought her battle. She ultimately lost her fight, and Monica passed away. But what she gave me is just the blessing that she gave me. I would have never gone out even to take that first step if she hadn't invited me and begged me to come and do this with her. And from that, I just started running more and more and more. And I was just really open to the idea of what it could be. You know, I was always open. I was always looking for things to have deeper meaning in the sport. I did run for Meg like you did, which was really awesome. But that's how I found I Run For, was just on a Facebook news feed. I was on the Marathon Maniacs page, and someone posted information about I Run For. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah. So I want to back up just one step. So,
sure.
Wow. And because I know your whole story now, that the beginning of that story is so powerful now. Just, I mean, what you're doing now, which we'll get into through your running, just to think that's how it all started. And I'm sorry about your friend. That is just such a sad piece of that story. But wow, just to think that's, you know, just those things that, I don't know, you know, you and I talked about it a little bit before we kind of started here about looking back and seeing God had a plan. So you talked about looking for a deeper meaning, and I'm curious because a lot of people I talk to, they start out running, but then in the midst of running, they feel this pull or this search for some deeper meaning in the running. And I'm just wondering what sent you searching, because you have, and we'll talk about that, you have found a much deeper meaning. What sends people searching for this deeper meaning in their running?
You know, I think runners go out, and once you're hooked, you start signing up for races, and it's fun to collect the medals, and it's fun to collect the shirts, and you meet friends. And I had a goal that I wanted to run 50 half marathons by my 50th birthday. And so it's goals like that, but I actually ended up running my 100th marathon, half marathon on my 50th birthday.
Oh my goodness.
So you start out with these goals, and then you start to think, well, what after? What's going to happen after that? And when it's your first marathon, there's those sad days the week after, like, well, what now? You know, I've been training, and what do I do now? And I just was always open to there being something else, being a part of a group or a movement or running for a cause. And not to just do that for one race, but to just really be involved in something like that. And I didn't know what it was. I was just always open to it. So when things would cross my path, I would check them out. And that's exactly what happened. And it was on Facebook. And I just clicked on a link about I Run For Michael.
So tell us a little bit about I Run For Michael.
Well, I Run For Michael started with a guy named Tim Boyle. And the gist of it is Tim was looking for a reason to run. And he posted on Facebook that he needed a reason to run. He was going to do a 5K, and he wanted a reason to do it. A man by the name of Michael Wasserman, who lived in California, 5 states away, a man with Down syndrome, messaged underneath, wrote in the comment box, "You can run for me anytime." And that just lit this thing in Tim. Like, you know what, I'm going to run for you. I'm going to run from now on. I'm going to run for you. And then he thought, what if I start a group and I match people who can run for other people? And so he started I Run For. And I Run For Michael is a Facebook page. There are 43,000 members on this Facebook page. There are more than 20,000 matches of runners, and we call them buddies. And those are the people that we run for. And it started with 2 people. It started with Tim and Michael. And I just thought that was so cool. I didn't really get it, but I thought it was cool. But now I get it. I mean, I signed up to be matched, and at the time, it took about 2 weeks for a runner to be matched. Now, if you want to be matched, a runner will wait more than a year to be matched. Our buddy list, you get matched quicker. We have less buddies waiting, but the runner list is in the thousands, and runners wait more than a year to be matched. So I signed up to be matched, and those 2 weeks felt like forever. I was checking my phone every couple of minutes, and I'll never forget, I was matched. It was late in the evening, and I started crying. I saw his picture, and he was 2 then, and his name was River. His name is River, and he's a doll. He has spina bifida, which I knew nothing about, but his family's educated me the best they can and sent me links and places that I can go to look up things and get involved. So I have done that as well.
So how long have you been running for River now?
I started running for River in 2013. He was 2. He just turned 6 years old. And we communicate on almost a daily basis. I post for him on Facebook every day, but texts and videos and FaceTime, things like that, we communicate as well offline.
And so you said something a minute ago when you started in searching for something to run for, and then you found this I Run for Michael and people running and matching up with buddies, and you said, I didn't get it then, but I get it now. Talk to me about what it is that you get and kind of that how you came to get it.
Well, on a side note, without a really good understanding of it, I was interested. And I have a little run club, and so I wanted to promote this group in my run club, but I didn't want to do it without knowing what are my obligations, what are my fundraising obligations, what are my running obligations. So I messaged Tim Boyle, and I explained to him that I'm in 100% for myself. I'm going to sign up, but I want to promote this group. And so what's the catch? And he said, there isn't any catch. You just have to want to be willing to run for someone else. There's no fundraising obligation. There's no obligation at all. We want you to post a few times a week. We want you to run for your buddy and give your miles to your buddy. And that made sense once I started doing it. You know, like I would tell people I gave him my legs and he took my heart. It just wasn't about me anymore. And so when I would finish a race, they would give me a medal. But, you know, the truth is the reason I ran that was for him. And so the medal was his. I mean, they're his legs. I dedicated, you know, my miles to him. So I started sending him my medals. And he has a lot of medals now. He has a big medal rack with lots and lots of medals. He's ran all over the country with me, you know, virtually.
So tell us a little bit about River then. If you all have talked a little, it sounds like almost every day, or you communicate almost every day. Give us a picture of River.
Okay. Well, River never matched, and immediately we exchanged pictures, and of course we became Facebook friends, and we got to talk on the phone and things like that. Several months later, we got to meet. We planned a meeting, and he lives in Mississippi with his family, and I live in Florida. So we were going to meet in Mobile, Alabama. And the first time we met, we both traveled to Mobile, Alabama. We met the day before the First Light half marathon in Mobile. And I got to meet him on a Saturday at the hotel and spend time with him. And he's not shy. He's very social. And because we'd shared pictures and we talked on the phone and we did a lot of FaceTiming, he knew who I was. You know, he knew who my husband was. So it wasn't like he was a little shy at first, but not really. And we got to just play all day, and we just got to have fun all day long, just getting to know each other on this Saturday. And even though at the time he was 3, I explained to him what was going to happen on the race day. What I did do is, the race was on the Sunday, which was the next day. I messaged the race director, and I told him about I Run For, and I told him about River and I meeting, and I told him what I was looking for, what I wanted to happen at the race, and he agreed. River was given a bib, and it was arranged for River to be at the 13-mile mark. We dressed alike, and my husband gave him instructions, and he understood. And I remember nearing the 13-mile mark, and I was looking for him. And there he was on the side of the street with his little red gloves on, dressed exactly like me, and he was waving his arm so I wouldn't miss him, because that's what my husband told him to do. And I don't think I have ever smiled so big I don't think I've just ever been so happy. I held my hand out, and he took my hand, and we started walking towards the finish line, that last 1/10 of a mile. And River had spinal surgery a few weeks prior to that. So after about 20 steps, he asked me to carry him. And so I swooped him up in my arms and I took off running. We ran across the finish line, and we got a first place in my age group that day. So he got a medal, he got a trophy. The local news was there. They interviewed us. It was that day was picture perfect, just dream come true for me.
That is amazing. Have you all had the chance to run together much since?
We've ran several times. Yes, we've ran. I decided to go to Las Vegas and run the marathon there, and I got a message just a few days before the Las Vegas marathon from a gentleman named Rooster. His name's Kim Rossiter, and he's a Marine. His Marine nickname is Rooster. So he introduces himself as Rooster, and he says, "Hey, I see on Facebook that you're going to Las Vegas to run for River, and that's cool. And I've seen your journey, and I was wondering if you'd like to meet us. We're Ainsley's Angels." They are endurance athletes that push special needs, children, adults, veterans, in endurance events like marathons. So I saw them, and I thought they were pretty cool, but what do you have to be to push a wheelchair in a marathon? I mean, that was just so out of my reach.
Right.
But I wanted to meet them, so I agreed to meet them. A couple minutes later, he messages me and says, "I know it's only a few days away, but could you pray about it and maybe push in the marathon?" And I was totally blown away. It was one time in my life that I really felt like God wanted me to do it. And I didn't know why. And I had shared that with my husband. I've never pushed a chair. The marathon is very intimidating to me as is. It was 3 days before the marathon. I'm tapering now. So, I was pretty nervous about it, but I got to Vegas. I, met them. I met my rider. His name is Seamus, and his daddy helped me. His name is Sean. And Sean and Seamus are an amazing father-son team that actually ran across the country raising awareness for inclusion. So that was like being with celebrities, first of all. And then when I crossed the finish line in Las Vegas, my husband was at the finish line, and we knew that had to come to Florida. Ainsley's Angels had to come to Florida. We didn't know how. That was November of 2014. In January of 2015, we got our first wheelchair and our first rider, and we started Ainsley's Angels in Florida. So I have a fleet of race wheelchairs. I have a trailer that was donated to me by the New York Yankees, which is pretty cool. There are 400 of us in Florida now, runners and riders representing Ainsley's Angels. So Rivers come here to ride with the Angels. So that's pretty exciting, because now he doesn't wait at the 13-mile mark for me to carry him 1/10 of a mile. He gets to be in the chair and be with me for the whole entire race.
That is incredible. And again, another one of those moments that I sit here and say, where did that come from? The connection in Las Vegas, and just a total transition for you to go from being, I couldn't even begin to push, and now it sounds like you do that an awful lot.
I do it a lot, and it's weird it's unnatural not to be pushing, when I'm at a race and it's just me solo. It doesn't feel right sometimes. We have a pretty strong group in Florida, and just a lot of really great runners and a lot of really great people. So Rivers involved with that as well. We were even given a very fancy chair that's his. It's airbrushed with his name on it. And so when I go to him, I went to him to visit him this summer, and we were supposed to just go for a recital, his tumbling recital, nothing to do with running. But I ended up bringing a chair, and there was a fundraiser for spina bifida camp for him and others like him. And we brought the chair, and we got to run down the street with a police escort of 100 police motorcycles. They did this event and fundraiser, this motorcycle ride, and we got to lead them out. and then we got to bring them back. So I got to push him
Do you ever,
for that. That was pretty cool.
I mean, do you ever stop, because I am right now, do you ever just stop and look back and reflect on that phone call from your friend Monica that was a crazy phone call for you at that time, let's run a half marathon, and then see where that has come today and just say, wow?
I do it all the time, and I think about her all the time and what she's given me, and those connections in everyone's life, those blessings that are just kind of in disguise that can just become life-changing. I mean, we, in this house, we just go with the flow. My husband just goes with, he's not even really surprised anymore. Sometimes he looks at me like, well, no, he always looks at me like what? Like what? Like He's a little afraid, nervous and a little afraid. And he's making the face like, what are we doing? Yeah. But nothing surprises him anymore. Nothing.
Yeah, I imagine he's come to detect this look on your face that says, oh boy, what's coming now?
Mm-hmm. I'm like, well, this is what we're going to do. And he's, he knows he's going to be sleep deprived, and he's probably going to have to do something out of his comfort zone, but he's okay with it. And when we kicked off Ainsley's Angels in Florida, I mean, I didn't know. I will admit, I'm a runner. I can run a straight line for pretty far, but that's it. I don't know about accounting. I don't know about nonprofits. I don't know about promoting things. I don't know about, I don't know any of that. So just little by little, I've, learned what works and what doesn't work, and read a lot of papers and tried to figure out spreadsheets and try to get some attention for us and recruit people and recruit riders. And so it's just it is a big learning adventure for us, but it's been very exciting and very rewarding. And I mean, we love every minute. We're just like, what's next? What's next?
Yeah.
So.
Well, I have done some work in the nonprofit world, and I've talked with different people in nonprofits, and, I tell folks all the time, you can have a nonprofit or a coalition, whatever you want to call it, full of the smartest, brightest people in the world. But if you don't have somebody in that group that has passion for what you're doing, you might as well not do it at all. So I think your passion is probably a huge asset to everything that you're doing, because it just pours out of you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. We are super excited. There's a lot of times that I'm like, yes. And my husband's like, well, what does that mean? And I'm like, I don't know, but it's good. I was honored. So the group I run for Michael, I just kind of found it and I joined it and I got really involved. And because Rivers is a little boy, I get to be a little goofy. He's a kid, so I get to be silly too. And we've really gotten into that and had a lot of fun with that. And I was honored a few years ago with the title of International Ambassador for I Run For. And that's probably my biggest blessing is, to be able to do that, to be an ambassador for I Run For, to go to Chicago and represent at the Facebook Summit, to represent I Run For with the founder, Tim Boyle, who's like my brother now.
Yeah.
And, that's just all like, how did this happen? I mean, I just shake my head and I am thankful every single day.
I want to ask about one piece of that and it seems like it's pretty core to I Run For Michael. And you mentioned it in the beginning when you were talking about it, that, when you match up with one of these buddies, it seems like that's a long-term commitment. There's a lot of people who go out and run, and they run a lot of races, and maybe this race I'll run for this cause. And I know I have for, different races. I've run a race for a veteran that's part of the 22 Too Many, and I ran the last half marathon I ran. I did something for the hurricane victims in Houston. I wonder what it's like, though, for you to have this one special cause, and I Run For Michael, and this one special river. It's just this constant. I wonder what that's like compared to running a lot of different races for a lot of different causes.
Well, when you sign up to be matched, you're matched with someone for who's unable to run for a variety of reasons, disability, exceptional needs, and then you're matched forever. And so that had to sink in for a second for me, because I was doing the same thing you were doing. I ran for St. Jude. I did something for them. I did something for Girls on the Run. And that made me, I liked that, doing this, doing that. And so I run for River. But what River and I have done is, I'll say, River and I are running for RODS, which is for the Adopting the Down Syndrome Children organization. And so sometimes if I want to take something else on, or River and I talk about it and want to take something else on, we will run for another cause. And so there's ways that that you can run for other things as well. It's not just limited to that one thing. But whenever I run, I put his name on my leg, and people will say, like, oh, run Jodi, River, River. They'll yell for River. They'll yell, go River. And that's really what it's about, is about raising awareness for your cause.
Right.
So it's limiting in a sense and liberating in another sense. Because you don't really have to limit yourself to that one thing. You can both be on a mission to do other things. And that's what I think we've done.
Right. And I think it's obvious that it has allowed you to have this beautiful relationship with River. I wonder, because it is a constant effort and a constant promotion, have you seen any benefits or seen advances in what's being done for spina bifida as a result of this journey you're on?
Well, I have been following the Spina Bifida Association's journey, and I'm involved with them, on their Facebook and on the new things that are happening. And they have a calendar of events, and they have a buddy walk that River goes to, that I go to in Tampa. And so we participate in things. Last year, we did, River and I did something called the Run to Jodi's House. And, it's a run to my house. It was 13.1 miles. It was a half marathon. And we raised $3,000 for the Spina Bifida Association. I had little medals made, and, it was all like a homemade race, but I had a couple hundred people, in person and virtually participate. And so we got to do that, and we got to be a part of the Spina Bifida Association in that respect. So, that's been really good. The part that the two of us team together to participate in things for the Spina Bifida Association.
Yeah, and I go back again to, because I'm like you, when we talk about spina bifida, I'm certainly not as aware as you are now. And then you said in the beginning, I had no idea really what it was. But just going back to your point, when we take a step out, when we just take a step forward, we get to learn about some different struggles, some different hardships that people are going through that we might not have otherwise known about, and get some opportunities to help in ways that we probably wouldn't have got otherwise. So I think that's a very cool part of the story as well.
Right. And, it's not so much about educating people about specifics. For me, it's about getting River's picture out there and getting his videos out there and showing people that spina bifida is a physical disability. He was born with this. He's had several surgeries. But if spina bifida people are just like every other person. He's not, he's limited in some things, but he's not limited in a lot of things. River's life is a little bit different than a child without spina bifida. He knows what physical therapy is. He's not a stranger to the hospital and things like that in his life. But my main goal is to just put him out there and have people see him and say, oh, that's what spina bifida is.
And the fact that they see him out there doing this with you all are in it together, so I think people get to see
be a part of that.
Yeah. And people get to see a lot of similarities from that regard.
Right. We were when we were in Mobile, the first time I ever met him, they were going to meet us in the lobby. And so my husband and I were in the lobby. We were going to go grab a bite or something. And someone in the hotel saw him and said, "You're River, you're Run Jodi's River." And that just like, you know, that's what I want. You know, it's what we want. We want people to, they know that. They know it's about spina bifida, and they know who River is, and they know what we do. And I don't know, that's just what it's all about. And we were super happy that day.
When I originally reached out to you, I had seen you and River, your story on the website for the New York City Marathon, because I'm going up there the beginning of November to watch a friend of mine run the marathon. I was like, wow, I want to know a New York City Marathon story before I go up there. And I was mistaken. It was actually a story about you and River last year, and I thought it was one for this upcoming year. But so you two did the New York City Marathon last year, a huge marathon. What was that like?
The New York City Marathon was the best. Absolutely the best, coolest race. I don't think I blinked. The whole time. I tried to get in for several years at the lottery, and I just time and time again wasn't. 2016 was my year. And during the registration confirmation process, they ask you if you have a story to share, and if you want to share it. And I will share. I'll take any opportunity, to talk about River and talk about our story. And we were picked there to be spotlight athletes for the New York Marathon. So we get to be on the website, and our picture is on there. And I could barely say it when I told my husband, New York Marathon called, honey. And he was like, "What? You're gonna love the marathon." It was a lot of fun. There were 1 million spectators for the New York Marathon. 1 million spectators.
Yeah, I look forward to being one of those spectators. I'm glad it's my friend who's running and I'm that's spectating, but it'll be a cool experience, and I'm glad you all got to experience that. Yeah, and this was shortly after you and I met in Chicago that I went looking for this. So it was a pleasant surprise to see you and your story on the main New York City Marathon website there. That was a cool deal.
Yeah, that was a big highlight for us. River and I also were, I tell you that I told my husband, the New York Marathon called, and he was in shock. But it was about the same level of shock as when Facebook called, and they came out and actually did a story about, I Run for Michael, and River came to my house, and we did a half marathon together that they filmed. And so they did that for their Facebook stories series. And that was right up there with New York. And that was a big part of how I got to meet you.
Right. No,
through the Facebook stories.
The paths just keep crossing, and it's hard for us to make much sense of it, but I'm really trusting God has a big plan with all of it, and there are certainly big things happening. I've picked up on it from you. You've started this whole thing running for River and with River, and you talk about getting, his story out there. I'm curious what all of this has done for you. How has all of this shaped you as a person, changed maybe the way you look at life or look at the world? Because it sounds like it has. It sounds like you started, boy, I want to reach out and find something that has a little bit more meaning and adds a little more to this running. And it sure sounds like you've got more than you ever saw coming. Yes, you're absolutely right. And I think unintentionally, I was looking for running to have a meaning for me or a purpose or to do something. But for me, what could it do for me? And the way it's turned out is it's not about me. In fact, everything that it has led me to has nothing to do with me. I say all the time that I'm just carrying this torch for him. He lit it. He lit the torch, and I just get to carry it. I get to be his voice, and I get to be his legs, and I get to just be out there and promote him. And then when I got introduced to Ainsley's Angels, and that became a part of my family as well, that's even more of the same. Is now it's about your rider. It's that other person that gets to have running. So you get to give running to somebody else. And then with Ainsley's Angels, literally, we get to
we get to give that race to another person. And when they cross the finish line, they get to have a medal. And it's not about you anymore. And it's just, even though you're looking for something to be sort of self-satisfied, it's about getting that feeling by giving it to somebody else.
I find that God does that a lot, and certainly in my life, where I go looking for something. I'm searching for something for me. I'm looking for something to satisfy me. And so many times the answer is giving to somebody else. You know, I think God finds opportunities to drive home that message an awful lot. He says, I'm going to answer you. I'm going to give you this thing you're looking for, but you're going to be surprised. The answer is not about what you're going to get. It's what you're going to end up giving. And, I just think that's...
Exactly. Yes. Exactly. That's exactly what happened. I mean, right. We don't know which direction where he's going to lead us next. I mean, but that's what it's come down to ultimately. And it's come down to that at every turn. So, and as a result of that, I mean, we are blessed. We are grateful and thankful every single day for what we get to do and for the people that we've got to meet and the stories that have crossed our paths and the friends that have become family to us. We're really happy that we got picked to be here.
I'm blessed.
Yeah.
I'm blessed to share in this conversation today, and I know others are going to be as well. So
thank you.
Let me wrap up with, because you said you never know where this is going or, what's next. But do you have some big goals on the horizon or any bucket list sort of things for you and River down the road?
Yes, River and I do. And I never thought I would Boston qualify, but, with River in my heart and inspiring me, I qualified for Boston. And so we're going to Boston in 2018. And that's just a dream come true that I get to do that, that I get to do that for him. I said New York was just the best thing I've ever done. And I'm expecting Boston to top that. So I'm super excited about that. River and I are going to write a children's book. And so we're really excited about that. I've done like 2 little books for him and I, but we want to do something a little bit bigger. So we have that. We as he's older, it's easier because he's getting to have his own voice. So we've talked about raising awareness and teaching and educating. We want to inspire people to get involved. We want people to follow their own passions and love our Lord. We want them to set their sights high. And we want people to celebrate with us every single day and follow our journey. And because I know it's just going to be better and better and better.
Well, Jodi, you are a blessing, my friend. I can't tell you how much this conversation and just this story has touched me. I'm sure it will others. I mean, I feel like I'm talking and sharing in a miracle here, really. I just, one run with a friend, one idea. And, I've told a lot of people lately that, and this was me, this is more a confession than anything, that I spent a lot of my life kind of waiting around and saying, okay, God, go ahead and show me what I'm supposed to do. Go ahead and show me what I'm supposed to be. I'm waiting, God. You haven't showed me yet. And the real change in my life happened when I said, you know what? I'm just going to take a step forward. I'm just going to take a risk. I'm going to step out and just trust God's going to do something with that. I don't know what it is, and I know he's not going to define it for me, but I'm just going to take a step and watch what he does. And it's been amazing. And it certainly sounds like when you went and you stepped out after some hesitation, ran with your friend Monica, to sit here today and hear you sort of recount what has happened since then it's God, that's all I can say. It's just, whoa, God. So I'm so thankful to share in this story.
Well, I'm so happy that you messaged me and we got to have this talk. This has been really great. I love sharing our story. I love telling people because it's a huge blessing. It is a miracle. All of the amazing things that just keep happening and happening and happening just because we're trusting in where God's leading us. And so we're just excited for what's next. We're just keeping our eyes open and we just keep taking those steps forward, like you said, because I did the same exact thing.
Well,
I didn't know, but I did the same thing you did.
yeah. Well, and the problem is, at least again, what I have found when I try to define what's going to happen, God usually says not big enough. I got bigger plans than that. Nice try. I appreciate your ideas, but I got bigger ideas, and so it sounds.
I love that. That's funny.
Yeah.
That's absolutely right, though.
Yeah, well, I am, one, I'm grateful. Two, I look forward to sharing this story soon, and I will share all the links to, I run for Michael, for Ainsley's Angels. We'll be following you and cheering you on all the way up to Boston, and I can't wait to buy you and River's book. I'm excited about that. I love to write, so I can't wait to see.
Well, we're gonna send you one. We're gonna autograph and send you one.
Oh, that would make my day.
There you go.
I would love that.
Yeah,
I would love that. Thank you. Well, Jodi,
you're very welcome.
I hope you have a great weekend. Lots of training, and give your husband my best. I've come to appreciate him in this conversation as well. I can't imagine the number of dinner time conversations that have just ended up in him shaking his head and saying, "Here we go."
That's right. That's right.
All right. Well,
thank you very much. You too. Have a wonderful weekend, and I will talk to you soon, my friend.
Jodi, thank you very much. Thank you. Have a good day. Well, I promised you that was a powerful interview. There were a couple times, honestly, talking with Jodi in that interview that I got fairly emotional myself and had to hold it back. And most of that really revolved around, as you listen to her story, just the way, starting with this unlikely run that she went on with her friend Monica, and then the tragic and sad story that her friend passed away from breast cancer after that and never ran again. And just to think of the powerful movement, the powerful blessing that Jodi's running journey has become because she said yes to her friend. And if you tracked along with her story there and just tried to imagine the number of things she said yes to as she told her story, she's clearly somebody who's not afraid to say yes. She's somebody who clearly is in tune with God's will in her life. And just the number of times that she had these seemingly, but I don't think so, accidental invitations, opportunities come her way, and she just stepped right in. And I love the fact that, she talked about her husband, Gene, there, who just has got to this point where he's not surprised by anything. And I think we can all understand exactly why that is as she told her story, because she's pretty open to doing a lot of things. And it was also emotional just to think that, I love the part where she talked about that she all of this started with her seeking some personal gratification, some personal meaning in her running. And the more she said yes, the more she discovered she's adding meaning to some other lives, not the least of which is Little River, that beautiful partnership that they have running together. And so I think I know it challenges me. I hope it challenges other folks too. I know we take our running serious, but I hope we just see the opportunities that are available there to extend our running journey to others, to use it to, I say it all the time, my running journey has become a way to run to dark with this light that I have found in my running journey, and the light that I have found in friends' stories and other runner stories along the way. Jodi is certainly no small part of those stories and the people that she's running with, and Ainsley's Angels and the I Run For folks, all of them out there just doing some incredible things to bless others through their own personal running journeys. And it just parallels so much this running journey that I'm on. I say it all the time. I crossed the finish line of that first marathon I ran, and I just felt it. I felt it in my heart that this journey that I would continue on, this running journey that I would continue to battle every day, and it is a battle, that it was going to become something much bigger than the actual physical feat of running itself. And when I sit and get to have conversations with Jodi Stoner and I get to share them with you, that's confirmation that indeed this running journey has become something much bigger. And what it is 21047.com. TuTem47.com, this opportunity to share the strength that I have found in my running journey with folks who may be needing it, whether they're runners or not. I think it parallels life in so many ways. Life, I said it, I think, in my last podcast or something I wrote lately, life really is stacked up against us. It's always throwing some challenge our way, some hardship our way. The same as running. You get out there and run too far, and you're going to get the sense, boy, running really has it in for me. It's going to throw tired at you. It's going to throw hills at you. It's going to throw achy legs at you. And it's always up to us to find a way to use this strength we've developed along the way, whether in running or whether in life, to take those challenges on. Jodi does that in a big way, and she does it for her little buddy River, and she does it for a lot of buddies that she gets to push out there in different races with Ainsley's Angels. And I'm just grateful that she was a part of this show and that her story could inspire us to one, dig deep, and two, look deeper outward. How can we say yes to whatever it is that might come our way this week or in the next couple of weeks? Because her story shows sometimes saying yes can open up some pretty powerful doors, not just for ourselves, but for others. And that's a big deal. So I thank you for listening in today. If you want to know more about the TuTem47.com mission and what we're up to, you can go to my website, TuTem47.com, TWOTIM 47.com. Thank you for listening in today. I hope you all get out there, have some great runs this week. I know there are a lot of folks training for some big races. Next weekend, we got the Marine Corps Marathon. I know a lot of folks are going to be up there. I look forward to going up there and playing spectator next week. And I know there's a theme there. I'm spectating the Marine Corps Marathon. I'm spectating up there at New York City. I promise you, I have running in my future. But get out there, run hard this week. If you don't run, cheer somebody on. That's always, really helpful for folks running. And if you have no interest in running whatsoever, then I just thank you for coming, listening in today, and I hope you'll find your way back here again. So God bless you. You all have a great
Look
day.
how far I've come. I won't quit here, despite the